Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I have some Raiders rumors that they're going to make you a little bit nervous, and that's how we're going to start today's show. And then near the end of today's program, I got some rumors that I do believe is going to get you really personally excited. Now, first off, I want to talk about Jakobi Meyers because Jakobi is the reason why I am feeling a little bit nervous. I had a text message over the weekend, and I was told, quote, there is some frustration in regards to Jakobi right now and the Las Vegas Raiders. It is no secret that he's got $0 million guaranteed on his contract, 1 year remaining, and Jakobi wants a new deal. He's been looking for a new deal, and based on some of the reports that have been out there, the Raiders and Jakobi have had these conversations for months. Now, I do not know exactly where the Raiders stand, but what I do know for a fact is that Jakobi Meyers wants a brand new deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. And the timing of everything with Jakobi, it makes me think of the timing also with Kolton Miller, because back on July 31st, if you remember this, for those that do not remember, Miller ended up signing his contract extension on July 30th, and Rappaport said that the Raiders are working on an extension with Jakobi Meyers. I did also say that I didn't know how tied into the whole organization Rapp was at the time, because he also put out like a statement in regards to Kolton Miller, and it was like, finally, that saga is over. And if you followed Kolton Miller and the Raiders all offseason, you would know that there was no saga going on. Miller was showing up for non-mandatory things. But I do want to go back to the what Rappaport said, because Rapp's not somebody that tosses information out there, and he's not somebody that just puts stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And the fact that he did say that the Raiders and Jakobi Meyers are having conversations about an extension, and he put that out about 3 weeks ago. Let's just say the conversations really ramped up right around when Rappaport was putting that out there. Now we're going, 3 weeks-ish where there's still not a deal done, and we are after the second preseason game. Jakobi Meyers isn't going to play in that final preseason game. Most Raiders starters aren't going to play in that final preseason game. And Jakobi Meyers knows that, well, you guys already went out and traded for a quarterback. You already gave that QB an extension. You just gave the blindside blocker and Kolton Miller a contract extension, and you're not going to give an extension to the wide receiver one. I think for Jakobi Meyers, and again, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but just based on the information that I was told, he was like, I feel like I've done everything right this entire offseason, and yet you still can't reward me with a contract extension when I've been very loyal to this team over the past few seasons. So my question to you is this, because I don't want this to turn into an issue, and I am nervous that this Jakobi Meyers situation could turn into an issue in late August, which is not when you want to deal with it. So should the Raiders extend Jakobi Meyers? Type extend, type pass. My answer coming up here after this YouTube ad break. If you didn't think I was typing extend, then you definitely haven't been watching this show for very long, because to me, if the Raiders don't extend Jakobi Meyers soon, I'm nervous of what could happen. And I know Jakobi's always going to be somebody that does the right thing, but when you consider the fact of where there's smoke, there's fire, and you got to follow the tea leaves, because, I was told that there was some frustration from Jakobi Meyers. That was over the weekend. I also saw a report from Levi Damien, I believe is the name, on August 14th, and he asked Jakobi about an extension. And Jakobi said this, as much as they want me here, that's all I can really say about that. To me, if I hear that, that sounds like there might be some drama brewing. And I can't really blame Jakobi for him being frustrated with his current contract situation, because I've been saying it all offseason. I think a lot of y'all have been saying it all offseason. Even Kolton Miller said it, just a few weeks ago, where by going out and extending Kolton Miller, it shows that you're willing to do right by your guys. And if moving on from Christian Wilkins, because he didn't have commitment to excellence, we know that. Jakobi Meyers has been a player, in my personal opinion, has done everything you could possibly ask for him in terms of commitment to excellence. He's not a diva. He's not a drama queen like a Devontae Adams. Now, sure, he might not be that number one true wide receiver, in the Raiders, they've been looking for a true number one receiver. At least they were early in the offseason, and, based on some of the rumors that are circulating right now, it sounds like that they still might be looking for a number one wide receiver. But I'll also say this. I think we have a number one wide receiver. He just doesn't play wide receiver. His name is Brock Bowers. And I know the fact that the Raiders went out and they ended up getting a guy like Jack Besh. I just do not understand how you go out and you trade for Geno Smith, you extend Geno Smith, and then you don't have a plan for his number one guy. If it was up to me, I'm extending Jakobi Meyers. So what I wanted to be able to do today is I wanted to be able to give you guys two contract ideas. My first extension projection, and let me kind of walk you guys through this here real quick. It's a 3-year, $54 million deal. That is $18 million per year with $38 million guaranteed. The reason why I have $38 million guaranteed with the numbers that I have tied there, it's very close to essentially what the Raiders gave Colton Miller, 3 years, $66, $42.5 million guaranteed. When you also think about what the Raiders have done this offseason, they have really prioritized certain players, and they have put those players on what I would consider their timeline. Pete Carroll's got a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option. You look at the Max Crosby contract. It really gets interesting around 2027. Geno Smith, tied around there. Adam Butler, tied around there. Colton Miller, yes, he got a 3-year extension, but essentially it was like 2 years fully guaranteed. The new deal that Jakobi would have is 4 years, $68.9 million. It would make him the 25th highest paid wide receiver. That's right now. I think we can all agree that whether you think Jakobi's a top 25 receiver now, if you have that deal next year, the following year, he's going to be worth every single penny to that, and I think it's a really good value. Now, again, I did 3 years here, $54 million. It's essentially a no doubt 2 years is going to be fully guaranteed with that $38 million, and if it still doesn't end up working out, they can figure out a way to move on after that. Here's projection number 2, and the guarantees are a little bit less, but the number per year is a little bit more. 2-year, $38 million. $34 million of that is guaranteed. The reason why I did 34 is actually when you look at the way that they structured Geno Smith's contract, Geno has $0 million guaranteed on that final year in 2027. And I think it's honestly the way that they would structure Jakobi's, where he's got $0 million guaranteed in 2027. The new deal would be 3 years, $52.9 million. So again, a little bit, and still the 25th highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League. I am somebody who believes in doing right by your guys and also doing right by players that fit exactly what you're trying to do. Jakobi is a physical wide receiver. He is a humble wide receiver. And if you're going to go with an offense like I think the offense Chip Kelly's going to run, where they're going to want to run the football a lot, don't you want a receiver that's going to go out there and block? If you're going to run an offense like Chip Kelly's going to run, who's going to spread the football around, don't you want a guy who's willing to say, all right, I don't need all these targets like all these other receivers, because when you throw it to me, I'm going to catch it. I really am nervous that the Raiders aren't going to extend Jakobi, and I'm nervous that if this issue turns into something, it's going to be a bigger headache than what this it's going to be a bigger headache than what it needs to end up being in. So here's what I want to talk about next year on the show, because I know I'm going to get this question. Well, Mitch, what happens if the Raiders don't extend Jakobi Meyers? Quite frankly, I'm actually surprised I'm even talking about this on August. I am recording this on August 18th. You guys are obviously seeing it on August 19th. But I can't really believe that we're talking about this. And I do want to break down what I think is going to end up happening if an extension does not go down. And again, I'm not going to blame anybody for being nervous, because I personally am pretty nervous about this whole Jakobi Meyers situation. Before I get into that, though, guess who's back again? Prize Picks is back, and I'm super fired up about it because this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Preseason football is underway and college football is here, so don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. To me personally, I love Prize Picks. I use it all the time. Chugs and I did it a bunch last season. If you don't already know, you can get that link. It's going to be prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Here's the one thing, though, that I want to talk about, because when you look at Prize Picks, some of you might be asking, all right, Mitch, well, what exactly are your picks? And one of the things that I did early this offseason, I got my Prize Picks lineup in because I knew the longer the offseason would go, the more hype there would be around the Raiders. So I took more on Geno Smith, more on Ashton Genty, more on Brock Bowers, more on Max Crosby, and because you can't do only one team, I also sat back and I said, well, if there's one team that invested in offense and did basically nothing on defense, it's the Cincinnati Bengals, so I took more on passing yards on Joe Burrow. This was $20. I could win $370. And I'll tell you this, I'm feeling really, really confident about it. If somebody's watching this show right now and you're like, Mitch, it's preseason, it's early, I'm going to wait until the regular season. Well, luckily for you, they're going to have a max discount on Dak Prescott. If you think he's going to throw more than half a passing yard, which, guess what? He's going to throw more than half a passing yard. You can already go with more over on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is simple. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. This is going to be something that Jeremy and I talk about many, many times this offseason. It's going to be things that we talk about many, many times during this season. My number one reason why you should play Prize Picks, it makes the game more entertaining. If I'm sitting down with my wife and I put in a Prize Picks lineup and she has an opportunity to win $20, $30, she's locked into that game, which is great for me because then we could sit and watch 3 hours of a football game, 3 hours of a college game, instead of me having to sit down 3 hours and watch Dance Moms. So shout out to Prize Picks for helping me out here. All right, let's go to the next part here of the show where I want to talk about if the Raiders don't extend Jakobi Meyers, what could happen? And what you see here is 3 options to me. I think number 1 is still the most likely option. Like, maybe I am overestimating my confidence in Jakobi Meyers and this organization, but I just think Jakobi's too nice of a guy. He's too much of a professional to really, truly hold out. I think he's going to make it known that, hey, I'm not happy that I'm playing, and could be a name to monitor during the trade deadline. Could be a name to just monitor in general of, I don't want to come back with this organization next offseason, and that's not something that this Raiders team wants to do, because I think that sets a bad precedent moving forward. Number 2 option is maybe he holds out until he gets an extension, and quite frankly, if he held out, I would be sitting up here every day going, Raiders, what the hell are we doing? We have the money to do it. Let's go pay him. The 3rd option would be a trade, and if you don't think that teams are going to be interested in Jakobi Meyers, get out from underneath that rock you've been living under, because there would be a ton, and I mean a ton of teams that would be interested for Jakobi, and if you trade him now, you're not going to get what you would want for him. Right now, you're going to get a low ball offer because it's kind of put up or shut up time. And if you're not willing to put up the money, then shut up and you're not going to get the trade compensation that we should get for him. If y'all appreciate the content that we provide here on this channel, reminder, it's 100% free. And we put out videos every single day when news happens, when rumors are going down. During a Raiders watch party, huge shout out to the nation because back-to-back weeks, we have been the number 1 most watched Raiders watch party in the entire world. Quite frankly, I expect to be number 1 every single week because we've been number 1 for the last 7 years. If you're a diehard Raiders fan and you love the silver and black and you love this community, I hope that you hit that subscribe button. I hope you turn on all of those notifications because I don't want you to miss anything. Also, it helps me out. So if you appreciate it, seriously, hit that sub button. All right, let's talk about some teams that if a trade were to happen in regards to Jakobi Meyers, here are just my top 5 teams I'm going to throw out there. In terms of offensive fit, I think him in Baltimore, because he can block, makes a lot of sense. The Buffalo Bills, I actually talked to an agent with Buffalo, and I was told that Keon Coleman has not really been progressing the way that I think Buffalo was hoping that he would be able to go out there and progress. The Washington Commanders, there's a little bit of flux right now with Terry McLaurin. Yes, I expect them to get that deal done, but what if the Commanders were like, well, I can just go out and trade for Jakobi Meyers, still a very good receiver, not as good as Terry McLaurin, but it comes at a fraction, probably about half the price tag. The Patriots and Titans I'll throw in there, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler ties. And those are the 2 guys that ended up bringing Jakobi over here. They have ties with him from their days back in New England. I think actually the team that almost makes the most sense is the New England Patriots, but then again, you just never know what can exactly happen. Coming up next here on the show, let's talk about the news that I think you guys are going to get excited about. And, when I do shows like this, I always think about, like, when I ask my wife, you want the good news or do you want the bad news? And oftentimes she's like, well, give me the bad news first. That way, when you get the good news, that's when you're leaving here, you're only thinking about the good news, the news that's going to get you excited. And I saw this report from Hondo Carpenter, and he said, I can tell you, I would not be shocked with a Raiders trade at wide receiver or corner right now. I'm just telling you. I would not be surprised. I don't think anything is imminent, so don't take the wink as imminent, but they are able to make a deal. Remember, I told you that first. I do want to be very clear, okay? One, Hondo's got an awesome wink. I don't think that there's many people that can outwink me, and I know it's a weird thing, but Hondo's got an elite wink. But you also got to understand you got to take everything that he says with a grain of salt, because I think he's somebody where, again, they're just trying to put some stuff out there. They're trying to put some information out there, and I don't think what he's saying is all that crazy. Like, would I want the Raiders to be interested in cornerback? Yeah, absolutely. But I will say this, based on the comments that Hondo made, because the Raiders are talking about that. So I just saw breaking news pop up on my screen. The Dolphins are expected to sign Matthew Judon. That's literally how I'm recording this video. So if you're watching this video today, you'll know when I was recording it yesterday. But Hondo is saying that the Raiders could trade for a cornerback or a wide receiver. Trading for a corner makes me excited because it's a team need. Trading for a wide receiver, though, yes, it makes me excited because I want this offense to be the best offense it could possibly be. But it also makes me nervous because I'm somebody where I go, Hondo said that on the 17th. I'll be honest, I was off yesterday. I didn't pay too much attention to what was going on with the silver and black. Alex and I had a little family day with Chuck. When I was told my information, that was before Hondo put that report out. So I think of the information I got, Hondo talking about trading for a receiver. To me, the only way you're going to trade for a receiver is if you're not confident in extending Jakobi Meyers. So let's first, though, talk about the first part here, and that's the cornerback room, because I've been somebody that has been very vocal in saying that this secondary needs help. And our secondary needs help not only because of the corners, not only because of the safeties, it's also because of our linebacker room. It's not built ultimately to be a good coverage linebacker room. We're also built in the trenches to get after with 4 or 5. And when you lose somebody like Christian Wilkins, and let's say something that's true, Malcolm Kuntz has not looked very good this offseason. So I want the Raiders to go out, and I want them to look at the cornerback market. There are good cornerbacks out there, and I get that Pete wants to develop, and Pete seems like he's in a right place in terms of, like, he's confident in the guys that he has out there. And I understand that Patrick Graham has been running very vanilla defenses, and a cover 3, you need to kind of mix it up a little bit more. And when you run a lot of zone, which is what the Raiders are going to do, they're going to run a lot more zone than you've seen in years past, you need to get creative. But also, my eyes tell me one thing. I also am somebody go, is this guy better than this guy? If the answer is that, and I think he is better, then I think we should look into those players. Like, to me, Stephon Gilmore, Rasul Douglas are 2 guys that I think would be top 2 corners on our team. It's not a disrespect to Darian Porter. It's not a disrespect to DeCameron Richardson. It's not a disrespect to Kai Blue Kelly, but for the love of God, Rasul Douglas and Stephon Gilmore would be starting cornerbacks on this team. Asante Samuel Jr., Troy Hill, Kendall Fuller, just going to be other names that I throw in there because they are out there on the open market. But if Hondo's out there saying we're looking at trading for a corner, I'll at least just say, can we look at the open market? Can we look at free agency first? If you told me, Mitch, who are the cornerbacks most likely to be traded to the Raiders? Here's a list of 8 names. And I would say the top names on this list, Jamel Dean's going to be somebody, and if anybody wants to see a video that I did 2 months ago on Jamel Dean, you can look it up, Jamel Dean, Raiders Report on YouTube. I think also you got to look out for the 2 Browns guys. There's been a weirdly amount of rumors over the past 24, 48 hours on Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward. Deonta Banks got some Giants connections. Trey Flowers has been bad in years past, but he's looked really damn good this offseason according to all the Bears reports, and he's got ties to Pete Carroll. Juju Brents, with the Colts going out and getting Xavier Howard, I do wonder, somebody who's from K-State, somebody who, Julius Brents was, what is his name coming out of the draft? If you're like, who the heck's Juju Brents? It was somebody that I talked about a bunch on this show. He actually think would be a great fit with Pete Carroll now. Tariq Woolen, watch out for him. You know how much Pete likes him. And then I am going to say Damari Mathis, and before everyone goes, Mitch, the Raiders will never trade with the Broncos. The Raiders in AFC West, they've made trades before. Also, think of it as like he might not be good enough to make the 53-man for Denver, but that's a really good cornerback room. Think of it as like Mathis I would compare to Thomas Booker. Thomas Booker might not have been good enough to make the 53-man on that Eagles defensive tackle room, but he's good enough to be a potential starter for us. I don't know if Mathis would be good enough to be a starter, but if you're looking for a depth piece who also plays special teams, because that's important. Pete literally said it. Our cornerbacks will play special teams. So you might not go out and get a big-name guy, but Mathis is somebody that's been stellar in special teams, and with all of our connections to Denver, with Brian Stark now being our assistant GM, I'm just going to say nothing is impossible. Let's also, though, go here to the other part of it, because Hondo is reporting that the Raiders are at least sniffing around a potential wide receiver trade. I do believe that this team is very confident in their top 4 guys: Jakobi Meyers, Trey Tucker, Jack Bech, and Dante Thornton Jr. After that, there is some uncertainty, right? And I'll always be transparent with you guys. They are okay with Alex Bachman. They want to see Tommy Mellott develop a little bit more. Colin Johnson, Philip Dorsett, whoever the other names that you want to throw out there, they still need time to develop. And yes, the Raiders like what they've seen in Dante Thornton Jr., but they also understand that he needs time to develop and he needs time to learn a little bit more. I also know and remember all the reports earlier this offseason about the Raiders wanting and needing a number 1 wide receiver. It was a fact. This team tried to trade for DK Metcalf. So knowing that they tried to go out and get a DK Metcalf, does that mean that they're looking for a replacement for Jakobi? Because in my mind, if you're going, I don't know if we're going to extend Jakobi Meyers, and yet we're looking to trade for a receiver, if I'm Jakobi Meyers and I hear that rumor, I'm going to go, oh, wait a minute here. What the hell are you guys doing? So to me, the number 1 name that I'll be transparent that I thought about, Terry McLaurin. And I made a video probably about 2 months ago, and it was titled, like, Nothing's Impossible. And I also know when coaching connections are out there, nothing's impossible. Dan Quinn and Pete Carroll have such a great relationship together. Dan Quinn's the head coach. Where? With the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn was the DC for a long, long time with Pete Carroll. I also know the Adam Peters connection with the Raiders is also a very good connection. Just because the Raiders have respect for Peters, they try to bring him in as a GM, so I know for a fact that there's there is a relationship there. So I'm not saying that the Raiders are going to go out and trade for Terry McLaurin, but the fact that there are rumors right now about Jakobi being frustrated, us not giving him an extension, and now the Raiders are potentially looking to add a wide receiver in a trade, sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, and I just want y'all to be on the lookout for some of that smoke. Speaking of some smoke, we're going to be bringing the smoke on Friday. If you're like, Mitch, where are you going to be? Desert Shark, Tucson. I'm going to be pulling up there. I'm going to be there at noon. I plan on hanging out there all day. The amount of Raider fans that I've heard are going to be there. There's prizes. There's giveaways. Heck, I was told that there's even going to be a duck race for some prizes. So I can't wait. Here's the address. We're also going to be going to a place called Culinary Dropout, which is right next door to Desert Shark Tucson, if there are a lot of Raiders fans that are continuously there and hanging out. So I'm excited. I'll see a bunch of y'all on Friday. And if you do not know, I am going to be live later on today, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, here on the Raiders Report.